Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zakir Jacob. There was big relief today for expelled BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma. The Supreme Court today ruled that no coercive action can be taken against her till the 10th of August. The court also accepted her counsel's argument that she was facing ever more increasing rape and death threats post the last hearing when the court gave her a tongue lashing. The question now is, with the court acknowledging the threats posed by the likes of a Salman Chishti, is it time for the court to also uphold its own long-held principle that for the same offence, only one FIR needs to be filed, which is the basic premise on which Nupur Sharma has knocked on the doors of the Supreme Court yet again?
Nearly a month after her controversial remarks on Prophet Muhammad sparked a firestorm within and outside the country. Former BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma was granted relief by the Supreme Court. She cannot be arrested in the multiple cases filed against her in different states. The court has asked various states to respond to her request to club multiple FIRs against her. It will now take up Nupur Sharma's request to club all 9 FIRs against her on the 10th of August. The respite comes after Nupur Sharma's lawyer told the Supreme Court that she was facing increasing threats to her life and had been unable to seek any other legal recourse. In fact, she claims that the threats had increased after the top court's scathing observations against her earlier this month. The very same bench had said Nupur Sharma's comments were responsible for the murder of Kanhaiya Lal, a tailor in Udaipur, who had put up social media posts in support of her. The judges had also accused Nupur Sharma of being single-handedly responsible for the unrest in India and demanded that she apologize to the nation. Those observations hold little meaning now, with the court granting Nupur Sharma interim relief. So were the threats to Nupur Sharma from the likes of Ajmer Dargah Khadim Gohar Chishti a turning point in the case?
All right, so has the court acknowledged the subsequent threats after the last hearing, and which is why the court now seems to be open to the idea of clubbing all the FIRs, which is why notices have been issued to at least half a dozen state governments. Let me go across to our guests who are joining us. Tushar Gupta, senior editor for Rajya Magazine. Ashpreet Kadyal, advocate and spokesperson of the Congress, will be joining us. Ashwini Dubey, advocate of the Supreme Court, and Maulana Masoodul Hasan Kasmi, Muslim scholar, joining us. Tushar, I'll start with you first. This is what the Supreme Court said, that in light of subsequent events, as in from events that have happened post-July 1, the previous hearing, the concern of this court is how to ensure that the petitioner is able to seek alternate remedy, and in order to explore such a modality, we are issuing notices. So is there acknowledgement from the court that some of the comments that they made on the 1st of July may have had a role in the subsequent events where the death and rape threats to Nupur Sharma increased manifold?
Good evening, Zaka. Absolutely, yes. I think it's an indirect admission from the apex court that perhaps they erred when it came to the statements that they made in the previous hearing. Again, the apex court had all the right to lambast Nupur Sharma for her remarks. No one is taking that right away from them. But at the same time, they should have acknowledged the threat that was prevailing around her and her family, and the incidents that happened around Udaipur and Amravati, that should have been factored in. Now we had another incident this morning in Bihar. There are rumors if it was linked to Nupur Sharma or not. But nevertheless, it's an indirect admission from the court that the remarks they made perhaps did not go down well with the public. They need to factor in the threats she's been getting from different states, how different state governments might want to harass her in order to score some political brownie points. So yes, I see it as an indirect admission from the apex court.
Ashwini Dubey, the Supreme Court also noted today in its hearing that after its order on July 1, various incidents, including one, and I quote, Salman Chishti claiming to be the Khadim of the Ajmer Dargah, has circulated a video calling for the killing of the petitioner. So clearly, the court is concerned about some of these loose talks that we have seen, the open rape and death threats. Today, we have a situation where somebody who was arrested in Bihar, part of an ISIS gang, had Nupur Sharma's residential address on his phone. That is as clear as daylight as a threat that she can get.
Yes, and thank you, Jakat. See, the Supreme Court is custodian of the Constitution, and the life and liberty of each individual is important for the Supreme Court. See, this is one. Second point is legally even, not only on the ground of the threat which has been extended. Legally also, the Nupur's case should have been stayed on the earlier occasion, though the Supreme Court has stayed it keeping in with the recent threats, and the court have observed in the order have said that there was a death threat to the Nupur Sharma. Somebody tried to cross the border from the Pakistan. See, the second FIR, the second law is the second FIR for the same offence is not permissible, as it would be violative of Article 22, Article 21, Section 300 of CRPC. And the second thing is that the legal system is meant to provide justice to every individual and not to harass them. And when the states start patronizing the offences, when the states, the FIRs are being registered on the basis of political vendetta, on the similar cause of action, multiple FIRs, what happened against the Amish Devgan, what happened against the Arnav Goswami, Rohit Ranjan, even Narayan Rane, say 10 FIRs for one condemnation in the same state, the Shiv Mahavikas Aghadi government registered. So it is not here the first case. And time and again, Supreme Court being the custodian of the Constitution have come forward and have stayed those offences which are registered on the basis.
So the court has issued notices to state governments including Delhi, Maharashtra, Telangana, West Bengal, Karnataka and Uttar Pradesh asking for responses before the 10th of August. And the court clearly saying, Ashpreet Kadyal, that the topmost concern is the subsequent threats that she has now had to face after the comments that the bench made on the 1st of July. So clearly the court also seems to be inclined to upholding a judicial principle which it first upheld in the TT Anthony case, that is, for the same offence, you cannot have multiple FIRs. Ashpreet.
See, number one, whether multiple FIRs can be there or not is something that the court would decide upon. As of now, it's just the status report that's been demanded by the Supreme Court, that the states should clarify if they are comfortable and convenient, if they deem it convenient, that all the FIRs would be combined. See, number two is that threat to Nupur Sharma, threat to anyone, the state should make sure that the threat is done away with and the person is secured and is given security. There is no doubt about that. But nevertheless, the first thing that is to be taken into consideration is that Nupur Sharma had given a statement which attracted FIRs because it was an offence, Section 295A, Section 504 IPC, and it is all in all likelihood, there could be an addition of sections also that could be done. Number three, the Honorable, Supreme Court has demanded this. It does not mean that all the states would say that, yes, they are comfortable with it. Some states might keep it with themselves. Some states might say
One second. I have a problem with the phrase whether states are comfortable. I don't think it's a question of comfort or not. It's a question of a principle of law. Now, you outlined 3 sections that have been filed against her. All 3 sections are similar in all the FIRs. So it's a principle of law whether, look, the offence was one. There were not multiple offences. There was one offence that she committed, speaking in a particular television channel in a TV debate. For that one offence, on the same charges, you can't have cases filed from Delhi to Karnataka.
Wrong. This is where you are wrong, Zaka. Law is all about interpretation. Just because 295A has been invoked in a particular FIR does not mean there cannot be any other section. Section 504 of the IPC is about provoking the peace in a state. Breaching that peace. And there can be more sections as well. According to the interpretation, police stations do it. An FIR is done by an SHO, not by you or me.
Which is exactly what, Ashpreet, the court is saying, that for the same offence, you cannot have multiple, because if you're going to do that, then, SHOs all over the country are going to file cases for everything that happens outside their jurisdiction. But be that as it may, let me go to Maulana Masood Al-Hasan Kasmi. Maulana Masood Al-Hasan Kasmi, the question that's also being asked is, Nupur Sharma, given the kind of threats that she's facing, and today the court has explicitly named one Salman Chishti, this video which came out a few weeks ago, who explicitly called for physically hurting her for her beheading for the comments that she made. Today the court has acknowledged that these comments are a reason for why it has taken a diametrically opposite position today as opposed to what we heard from the court on the 1st of July. So can we at least acknowledge that people like Salman Chishti are actually fishing in troubled waters and making this even worse than what it already was?
Zaka, let me clarify it first that the people like Salman Chishti and another Chishti from Dargah, Ajmer Dargah, they are also further vitiating the communal atmosphere in our country. But the people, today, Honorable Supreme Court has given some relief to Nupur Sharma and has stopped her from getting arrested. So this is the court's matter. SC is expected to hear the both sides before coming to any conclusion, before coming to any judgment. So this is normal proceeding of the court. We should not celebrate this. We should not divide the country over this issue, that this is the victory for that.
No, nobody is saying it's a victory. Again, Kazmi Saab, it's a principle of law.
Victory.
Once again, it's a
principle.
No, once again, Kazmi Saab, hear me out. Hear me out. Please hear me out. It's a principle of law. Number one, that for the same offence, you can't have multiple FIRs from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Number two, that unless you hear one side or the other, you cannot take coercive action, because then that becomes the power of arrest or the fear of arrest becomes an instrument in the hands of the state. Now, you can very well argue it's being selectively applied. Maybe it's being applied in Nupur's case today, but it's not being applied in other cases. That's a fair argument. But on principle, you cannot say that fear of arrest has to be there and fear of arrest can be used by the state just to harass people.
No, the comments which made by Nupur Sharma are highly condemnable.
Yes.
And the nation also awaits her arrestment, because in the similar cases, and similar blasphemous cases, many people have been arrested. They have faced the law. They have gone jail. Then they got bail. So, nation also is awaiting that this lady also should face the law, and it should also be a deterrent for other people.
Arrest cannot be a matter of routine, Kazmi Saab. That is the point. Anyway, Tushar, I want to ask, what he's not spelling out explicitly is, how come the court gave interim relief to Nupur Sharma, no coercive action till the 10th of August, but the same court has not extended that similar interim relief to, let's say, for example, a Mohammed Zubair, who's facing multiple cases for the same offence in multiple jurisdictions?
No, see, the offences for which Zubair is under arrest and under investigation also have FCRA regulations as a question, also have the donations that his organization took from abroad when they were not authorized to as a question. There is also the question of destroying evidence when he refused to hand over the electronic gadgets to the Delhi police. So there are a lot of difference here between the offences committed by Nupur Sharma and the offences committed by Mohammed Zubair. Now, coming to one question.
No, but the original offence, again, I can't come back to the principle, the original offence for which he was arrested and brought to Delhi was allegedly over a tweet that he put out in 2018. That was the original offence. The subsequent cases have all been filed subsequently.
But a lot of relief has been granted. In some cases, he has already been granted relief. But right now, the question is coming up that if Nupur can be given interim relief, why do you have Zubair under investigation? So just to clear that out, he's under investigation for destruction of evidence for the gadgets that he was supposed to hand over to the police. He's under investigation for the FCRA regulations, which his organization allegedly violated. So this needs to be clear before we draw a comparison between the two.
Okay, I want to go back to Ashwini Dubey. Again, I come back to the question of the court has also said that Nupur Sharma, it is not its intention for Nupur Sharma to visit every court for relief. Can we then interpret that the court will extend the same to others? I'm not taking any names here, to others also who may be facing similar multiple FIRs for the same offence.
Thank you, Jaka. Please permit me to speak for 50 seconds. There are two, the cardinal principle which you discussed, the TT Antony case, that's the basic law which is looked into when the FIR is registered on the similar cause of action at different places. But the courts have to see the facts, whether the case fulfill the criteria of test of sameness, because there are two tests which is to be passed in the criminal jurisprudence. First test is the test of sameness. Test of sameness is when the FIR relates to the same incident in respect of the same occurrence, or in regard to the incidents having two or more parts of the same cause of action, which is the case here. Now, the another test is test of consequence. When different offences are committed in the course of the same transaction by the same person, or offences arising as a consequence of a prior offence. Why here? So you are discussing about Zubair's case. Maybe, but there are foreign funding which is being looked into. Had it been the case that he has made certain tweets, allegedly made certain tweets which have hurted the religious feelings, only 153 to 95, then it would have passed the test of sameness. But when the questions comes to test of consequence, that has to be decided by the court of law. So it is, if it is if it is the violation of the law, then of course courts come to the plane. Why I am saying, remember in TT Anthony case, what Supreme Court says, that the second FIR for the same offense is not permissible, as it would jeopardize the life and liberty of the individual. But in Lalu Yadav's case, you see what Supreme Court said, since the Chara Ghotala happened in different parts of the state, though the person was same, Ghotala was same, but transaction was different. And that test is also one of the test of consequence was not passed. So that has to be looked into by the court of law. But ultimately, you and everyone would agree that whether this trend of harassment by making the person run from one state to another and from one court to another,
and more importantly, the subsequent threats that she's facing. So, Harshpreet, I'll give you the final word. The court has also explicitly acknowledged, it named one Salman Chishti for issuing a death threat to her. There have been others as well. It has explicitly acknowledged that perhaps is one of the singular factors for why the court today issued notices to respective state governments, was inclined to clubbing the FIRs, and more importantly gave Nupur Sharma interim relief till from coercive action till the 10th of August.
Number one, there is no law at all whatsoever that says that the FIR, there cannot be multiple FIRs. Let me make it crystal clear once and for all. Number two, an offense that is violating religious sentiments for you, Jacob, could be an offense that is violating my peace, my state's peace. There could be, dangas that could happen because of that, and so much more. So offense can be different in different FIRs. There is no doubt about that. I can tell you as a Supreme Court lawyer. Number two, lookout notices, summons, everything was, issued. Despite that, nothing was answered by Nupur Sharma. Did she even once surrender? Did she even once answer the Supreme Court's notice, High Court's notice, police station's notices? Nothing at all was done. And let's not forget that back in the day, they had withdrawn this very petition. They had withdrawn because there was a critical remark made by that bench. And after that, just a few days ago, they refiled it so that they could revive that very petition. Then why did you withdraw it in the first place? This is something that the BJP needs to answer. Number two. This is number two. Mr. Justice Surya Kant was on this bench as well, was on the previous bench as well. And therefore, his remarks, if you are taking into consideration his remarks of this time, let's not take out the remarks that was given by Mr. Kant the last time as well.
One of the reliefs that she asked for in her petition today was to expunge some of the comments that the court made last time. That has not been looked into, at least not today. Maybe it will in the next hearing. For the moment, though, we'll leave it at that. I want to thank all our guests. I want to move across to another big story that is coming in. This is a hardcore political story. This is coming in from Karnataka. A big twist now in the war within the Congress party to be the next chief minister of the state of Karnataka. It is DK Shivkumar versus Siddaramaiah. And now DK Shivkumar has made an open pitch to be the chief ministerial face. And it's the first time that he's ever done so. Speaking at a public event, he said, and I quote, "I'm not a sannyasi, and I'm not wearing a saffron robe." He also went on to ask his community, the Wakaligas, to rally behind him if they want someone from their community to become the chief minister of the state. Now, this comes after former Karnataka chief minister and arch rival Siddaramaiah reached out to Dalits and minorities, even going to the extent of saying that this is going to be his last assembly election, so wanting to play on the sympathy card. Elections in Karnataka are slated for 2023.
ನಮ್ಮ ಸಮುದಾಯದವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಹಂತದವರೆಗೂ ತಲುಪಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸಿಎಂ ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾವಾಗ? ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅಧಿಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಾಗ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ನನ್ನ ಹಿಂದೆ ರ್ಯಾಲಿ ಆಗಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ. ನಾನಾಗೋದು ಬಿಡೋದು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್. ಬಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ನನ್ನ ಕೈಯನ್ನು ಬಲಪಡಿಸಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ.
All right, I want to go across to Harish Upadhyaya, who's joining us on this story. The fact that both of these leaders, DK Shivkumar and Siddaramaiah, met with Rahul Gandhi a few weeks ago, and supposedly there was a brokered peace, and now both of them are coming out and making comments suggesting that they want to be projected as the chief ministerial face, whether it was Siddaramaiah saying yesterday that this is going to be his last election, today DK Shivkumar saying that there should be somebody from his community as the chief ministerial face and that he's not a sannyasi. What does this mean for the Congress party?
Well, there is a sense within the Congress here that Mr. Siddaramaiah is pitching himself as the chief ministerial face, despite the High Command making it very clear that they will fight this election under the collective leadership banner, and having that huge birthday bash planned on August 3rd. And then trying to project it as a show of strength and also show that Siddaramaiah is the leader for the Ahinda community. It's a loose cluster of Dalits, backward classes and minorities. And that's one of the reasons now, Zaka, that you today see that DK Shiv is talking about becoming the Vokaliga leader. He hasn't done that before, although he's done it in a very subtle manner. But for the first time, you see, he's saying that I've told my community that after SM Krishna, you will perhaps see another Vokaliga leader from Congress becoming the chief minister. For that to happen, you need to rally behind me and strengthen my hands. So you are seeing DK Shiv, who's seen as a party loyalist, never speaking against the party, finally making his ambitions very clear. And also, he makes a comment when he's asked about the birthday bash of Mr. Siddaramaiah. He says, well, I can't be someone's spokesperson. I have my own limitations, making it very clear that he's not happy with the celebrations that are happening on the 3rd of August, but at the same time, he can't speak much. Remember, Congress's own survey says that they might end up with anywhere around 102 to 120 seats. But even for that to happen, the leadership here understands that both Siddaramaiah and DK Shiv have to work together. But right now, they seem to be not looking eye to eye.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like a fratricidal war that's going on within the Congress party and within the top two in Karnataka, despite the High Command's best efforts to try and broker some kind of a peace. Both Siddaramaiah and DK Shiv having a go at each other, if you will. We leave it at that. Let's now move on to another piece of breaking news that's coming through. This is from Kerala, where now we have word that the National Commission for Women has taken cognizance of the NEET exam controversy in Kerala, where multiple girl students have come forth and complained that they were asked to remove their undergarments if they needed to appear in the exam. The NCW has issued notices to the Kerala DGP. It's also written to the DGNTA, which is the National Testing Agency, for an independent probe in this matter. The NTA has come forth and said that no such controversy has happened and that such a thing was not reported in the immediate aftermath of this said incident. Let me go across first to Neetu Raghukumar, who's joining us on the phone line. So now it's not just the state government that's intervened. Even the National Commission for Women has taken cognizance of this matter and said that they need a probe.
Yeah, that's correct, Saka. Coming from all corners in the investigation, what we know is that so far 5 people have been taken into custody for questioning. This includes 3 from the agency tasked with this biometric testing and with the frisking, and also 2 from the college. These are basically sweepers in the college who were there at the moment, and the girls have identified their presence there, is what we are understanding. So 5 of them have been taken in for questioning, and once that is over, the questioning is being done. Once their role is clear, then the further process will go on, and only after that we know how many of them will be accused in this case. Now, Higher Education Minister in Kerala has also written to NTA as well as Union Education Minister, stating that such instances should not happen, and NTA should give proper training to these agencies or these staff who are there to take care of these, to make sure that these students don't have to face such kinds of humiliating instances in future. So now the National Commission for Women has also taken cognizance of this. The Kerala Women's Commission has also registered a suo motu case in this regard.
All right, Neetu, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how the story progresses. Yesterday, it was just 1 girl student who came forth. Today, 2 more have. So multiple accounts pointing in the same direction, that the security agency that was in charge of the security at this particular one test center for NEET in Kerala was asking girl students to remove their inner garments if they wanted to go in and take the exam. Meanwhile, more breaking news coming through. This is again political news from Maharashtra. Now 12 members of parliament of the Shiv Sena who have joined the Shinde camp. Remember, they met with the speaker earlier today, Rahul Shewale, who is the leader of that pack. He has been appointed as the Shiv Sena leader in the Lok Sabha. He now replaces Vinayak Raut, while Bhavna Gavli is the chief whip who replaces Rajan Vichare. We're also getting in word that these 12 MPs have said publicly now that they will be backing Jagdeep Dhankar's candidature as the vice president in the vice presidential elections. Let me go across to Siddhant, who has more details on this. So this decision has been taken by the Speaker's office, the Lok Sabha Secretariat, to acknowledge that the Shinde camp is the official Shiv Sena and they will have the powers of the parliamentary party leader and the chief whip.
In fact, going by the procedure, then 51% of the MPs need to be in the faction to get recognized to change the whip and the leader of the house. And with now 12 MPs are with him, and in fact, I have been told that in few days other MPs can also join. So, as majority of MPs are with Eknath Shinde, he has power to change the whip and the leader of the house, and that has been done. And in fact, that has also been acknowledged by the Lok Sabha Secretariat. Now, Zaka, the story that we are getting here is Mr. Shivale has confirmed this in his press conference that the Shinde camp is going to support Jagdeep Dhankar as a vice presidential candidate. You remember last time when it was to support the president's candidate Draupadi Murmu. At that point in time, Mr. Shinde's opinion did not matter because Uddhav Thackeray himself announced his support, his Shiv Sena support to Draupadi Murmu. And this very decision was taken by Uddhav Thackeray in a very calculated manner because he knew that if he'll support the other candidate, then the divide in the party will reflect in media and other places. That's why he supported the NDA candidate. This time around, since as they are the party now, as they say that we are the real Shiv Sena. So also to give out a message there, this announcement has been made by Rahul.
What is the political calculation though, Siddhant? Because in the case of Draupadi Murmu, it was a historic candidature. So clearly Uddhav Thackeray or Aditya Thackeray did not want to be seen as on the wrong side of history. Therefore, they went along with the decision to support her. Whereas in the case of Mr. Dhankar, there is no such history that is likely to be achieved. Therefore, what is the compelling political imperative for them to go along with this choice?
Well, yes, that's right, Zaka. So basically, Zaka, the first reason behind taking this decision was that they never wanted a divide to be reflected in a party, because if they had supported the other candidate, the opposition candidate, then Shinde would have objected to it and he would have supported the NDA candidate. The first reason was that. And the second reason, Zaka, was Shiv Sena wants, in fact, the Uddhav Thackeray camp wants to go soft on BJP and government. And in fact, trust me, Zaka, this time around, in fact, I'm speaking to MPs in Uddhav Thackeray faction. They are also telling us that they are going to go soft on government in the monsoon session, because honestly speaking, Shiv Sena is an urban party in Maharashtra, Mumbai, Thane and Konkan. That particular belt doesn't have a much tribal population, or for that matter, tribal population is not Shiv Sena's vote bank. Supporting Draupadi Murmu was out and out a very calculative move. First, divide should not reflect in the party. That means Eknath Shinde should not object to the decision of supporting the opposition candidate. And B, it was to give out a message that even the Uddhav Thackeray faction is going soft on BJP.
All right, Siddhant, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how the story plays out as far as the Shiv Sena is concerned. Right now, though, a bit of a blow for Uddhav Thackeray and his camp, because there's now a new leader of the parliamentary party for the Shiv Sena, as well as a new chief whip that have been appointed as per the Shinde faction's claims. All right, that's a wrap. In a moment, Akanksha will join you with the biggest exclusive tonight. Lawrence Bishnoi, operating from inside the Tihar jail with impunity, had no qualms ordering multiple hits on Salman Khan.
The sculptor himself, the main man behind this, is saying that there is actually no difference.
Drugs to try and fund their terror operations and to also try and radicalize young, impressionable minds while confining them to the throes of drug addiction.
What is becoming increasingly worrying and problematic is that issues related to education is becoming so polarizing.